Hello, I'm Matt from RetroOnly.com. Today we will be talking about how to cut a vinyl record without breaking it. Before we begin, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons below. Are you looking to clear out several shelves of storage space packed with vinyl records? Or maybe you just found some records for dirt cheap and want to try and do a little weekend DIY project. There are tons of things that you can do with records, but most of them require actually cutting the record. So how exactly do you cut vinyl without breaking it into a bunch of little pieces? To cut a record without it breaking, you need to heat the record in the oven to make it partially soft. You will then want to use a hot knife or scissors to cut the record as needed. Many people have old vinyl records lying around, and if they are damaged or you simply don't listen to records anymore, don't just throw them away. There are tons of different things you can do with vinyl records once you're done with using them for music. Although most of the cool things that you can do with records does involve cutting it or molding it in some way. But how can you cut a vinyl record into different shapes to create a cool project without breaking it? That's what this video will help you with. How to repurpose a vinyl record. Cutting a vinyl record can be as simple as just cutting a piece of paper. Although the process takes a lot of practice and safety precautions to master, you can make a ton of great arts and crafts out of records. In this video, you will learn how to cut vinyl records into shapes without breaking them. So, what will you need? A vinyl record, an oven, a cutting board, safety gloves, wood burning tools or a heat knife, these are optional, metal snips or utility knife if you don't have the two previous tools, a paper cutter, a pencil, masking tape, pizza pan, sandpaper, oven mitts, and safety goggles. The first thing you need to do is have a plan. In every art project, you will want to start with a plan, a template, or an outline on how to complete the task. Start by knowing exactly what you are wanting to create before you ever put your knife on the record. It's incredibly helpful to have a plan drawn out if you are going to be cutting specific shapes. That way, you can either trace the template on the record or look at the template while cutting your record. If you can't draw very well by hand, you can even use drawing software. For those who are crafty, you can find a superb photo editing program online to create an image outline that can then be transferred to the record. You can also get some shapes and trace them on a piece of paper and cut those out. It is important to remember you're removing the negative space when you create the image or outline. Next, you want to transfer the image. Once you have created your template on a piece of paper, you need to cut it out and tape it to the vinyl record. Make sure you can trace the image within the record's outside edges. To put the design onto the record, use a pencil, as the pencil marks are much easier to wipe away if you make an extra mark or end up messing up the design. Next, you want to preheat the vinyl record in the oven. Place the rack in the center position and turn on your oven. You will want to preheat your oven to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Place your marked vinyl on a pizza pan in the oven for 3 minutes. Don't put the template in the oven or it will likely catch on fire. When heating the record, keep the oven light on to watch the vinyl as it heats. The heat will soften your vinyl, making it easier to cut. Once it is heated, remove the record using oven mitts. The record must be malleable. If it is not, you will need to heat it up a little longer. To avoid your oven rack or tray from being covered with melted vinyl, use aluminum foil under the record so it stays on the aluminum foil. You will also want to put a tray of some sort under the foil to help the record stay flat during the heating process. For most people, a pizza pan covered in aluminum foil works best for this process, but you can also use other large metal pans that the record will fit flat onto. Begin to cut the record as soon as you remove it from the oven. In about 30 seconds to 1 minute, the record will begin to harden, so you have to act fast. You will want to cut or shape it quickly, but if you aren't fast enough, you can certainly put it back into the oven if you need to. It is a good idea to keep the oven on during this part of the process, just in case you need to reheat the record. To make the cutting flow as smooth as possible, ensure your workspace is ready. Have all the essential tools you need, such as a cutting board and cutting tools, ready and nearby. You can also use wood burning tools or a heat knife to cut the record. These tools will work far better than just using a utility knife or a pair of scissors. If you use a wood burning tool or a hot knife, it's recommended to use a smooth surface resistant to heat. Also, don't cut for more than 10 seconds at a time with these tools, as cutting for longer than that can cause the record to begin to warp, which might ruin your design. Also, don't forget to wear safety gloves when using heating tools, as they can reach up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Cutting your vinyl record. Use a pair of heavy-duty scissors to cut the heated record. A utility knife does a great job too. To cut the record, place the record on a flat, smooth, heat-safe board. While holding the record with an oven mitt or pot holder, follow along with your design as you cut. If the record begins to get hard and you are unable to cut it with the scissors or knife, then pop it back into the oven for a minute or two. Depending on how intricate the design or how fast you are, you might have to reheat it multiple times before you are done. Whether you are using scissors or a knife, it is important to make sure that they are sharp. Replacing the blade on the utility knife before using it, or buying a new pair of scissors, is a good way to ensure that they are sharp. You can also sharpen an old pair of scissors that you no longer use specifically for this purpose. Cut using a hot knife. You can also use a hot knife to cut your record. You can get one from most any arts or crafts shop. Hot knives are used in crafts and woodworking for a precise cut on delicate materials. And hot knives are probably the best cutting tool for vinyl records. If you use a hot knife, you don't have to mess with using the oven at all, and so that will save you a lot of time. You can visit your local store, crafts or art, or home improvement store to buy a hot knife to use specifically for cutting your records. Hot knives have a variety of other cool uses, so if you are into doing DIY projects, it's a great tool to have. Hot knives are heated using electricity. Just turn on the knife for about 3 minutes for the blade to heat up to ensure that you make a smooth cut. Cut on top of a wooden or heat-resistant surface so that your knife doesn't burn through it when you cut. To achieve a smooth cut, poke the knife through the record and pull it along your design. Also, don't hold the knife in one spot for too long, as this might cause the record to melt and bubble up. As you cut, do remember that vinyl contains chlorine gas that escapes when it's heated. It's a good idea to wear a face mask while cutting to avoid breathing in the gas. After cutting along the design marks, punch the vinyl pieces out when you are finished cutting them. You do want to gently punch the entire cutout part so as not to damage the part that you are actually going to use. Sanding. After you're done cutting, the next step is sanding. It's important that you sand any rough edges and trim the lines you didn't quite get cut all the way through. The best sandpaper finish to use on the edge is 120 to 300 grit. Carefully sand around the cut to remove any jagged and sharp corners so the record is easy to handle afterwards. Wipe off all the extra graphite marks you may have left from when you traced the template with your pencil. Once the sanding is complete and the record has cooled all the way down, you are ready to hang it, use it in your larger project, or simply stand back and admire your handiwork. Conclusion. There are so many crafts that you can cut out of an old vinyl record. You can also cut your record using a rotary tool or a laser cutter for tiny items with a lot of details to them. You can even make plenty of crafts or art without cutting by simply using the entire record. There are many different vinyl projects that simply involve you melting the record and turning it into a bowl, or fusing multiple records together to make an art piece. Cutting records can be difficult, but with the steps given today and the many other videos online on how to do it, you should now be much more prepared to cut your records than you were when you first started this video. This has been Matt from RetroOnly.com. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and you can check out the description for our favorite hot knife.